One commonly asked question by MS and US applicants is what are the differences between applying in fall versus applying in spring? In this video, let me explain what are the advantages and disadvantages of applying in fall versus applying in spring. Now, before I talk about the advantages and disadvantages of applying in fall versus spring, let me quickly explain how the US academic calendar looks like. Most universities in the US follow a tri-semester pattern. That is, the entire academic year is divided into 3 semesters. The fall semester is the start of the academic year. So this is how the academic calendar of most US universities looks like. Some US universities follow a quarter system where the academic year is divided into 4 quarters, and in that case this is how the academic year looks like. Now the first advantage of applying for the fall intake is that all universities accept applications for the fall intake. Not all universities accept new applications for the spring intake. So clearly you have a wider choice of universities if you apply for the fall intake versus applying for the spring intake. Now another difference of joining a university in fall versus spring is that students who join the program in spring are not permitted to do an internship in the very first summer. The summer term starts in May, and the rule says that as international students, to do an internship in the summer, you should have completed at least 2 full semesters of coursework. That is, at least 9 months of coursework. International students are issued what is known as the CPT. CPT stands for Curricular Practical Training, which is like a permission given by the university to do an internship. Now, this permission or the CPT is issued only when you have completed 9 months of coursework at the university. That is 2 full semesters of coursework. Students who join the university in spring would become eligible for a CPT only the next spring. That is, if a student joins, say for example, in the January of 2023, he or she would be eligible for the CPT only the next January, that is Jan of 2024, because only by then the student would have completed 1 full spring semester and 1 full fall semester of coursework. So the question comes is that what does a student who joins in spring does during the summer semester? So during the summer semester, the student has options of either taking coursework and finishing their course faster, or they could do on-campus jobs. Students would still be eligible for RAs, TAs, on-campus jobs, and they could do it for full time during the summer. That is, if they are not taking any courses, they could do full-time employment, but within the campus. They will not be eligible for an off-campus internship during the first summer. So can students who join the university in spring, that is in January, can they do an off-campus internship the next spring, that is next January? Well, now that depends on the university you are in and the program that you are in. Not all universities and programs issue CPTs in January. That is, they don't issue CPTs in the spring semester. Many universities issue CPTs only in the summer semester. So you will then have to wait for the summer semester to begin your internship. But by then, most students complete their coursework and begin their full-time employment only. You also need to understand that most companies hire interns only in summer. So the number of internships that are available in the spring semester are also very limited. So in general, if you go in spring, there is a lesser possibility that you may actually do a summer internship. Also, you need to understand that January being a winter month, the climatic conditions could be a little harsh around that time in most parts of the US. So students who go in spring should be a little more prepared for that. Now, a small advantage of applying in spring, and this has particularly been our observation, is that since the number of applications in the spring semester are comparatively lower than that in fall, it is slightly easier to get an admit in spring rather than in fall. So for the same university, we have observed that students with slightly lower profiles also manage to get in when they apply in spring versus when they apply in fall. But again, this is only in few cases and only in case of few universities. It is not that just because the universities receive less applications in spring, they admit almost every application that they receive. The intake is also less in spring. Some universities, as I mentioned earlier, do not have spring intakes at all. But just because the intake is small and the applications are few, does not again mean that the universities would admit any application or any student that applies in spring. But yes, it has been observed that there is a slight advantage of applying in spring when it comes to the competition. But again, that's not a very big advantage. In conclusion, if you have the option of starting your masters in fall versus spring, I would recommend starting your masters in fall rather than starting it in spring. There are clearly more advantages and more options of starting your masters in fall rather than joining a program in spring. But then again, it depends on your individual situation and your profile. If you would like to discuss more about your profile, feel free to get in touch with me directly. Thank you.